Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into one of the most misunderstood times in our lives, our middle years. We hear about being in our prime, but that idea often gets totally buried under the myth of the midlife crisis. So, what's the real story? What does the science actually say about this pivotal time? Okay, let's get into it. We all know the stereotype, right? The flashy sports car, the sudden wild career change, that desperate attempt to feel young again. It's a story you see in movies all the time. But is that what's really happening for most of us? Well, the truth is, according to some major long-term studies, that whole full-blown midlife crisis thing, it's pretty much a myth. Sure, maybe 10 or 20% of people report some kind of turmoil, but it's usually tied to their specific life events, not just their age. For the vast majority, midlife is something way more interesting. So, if it's not a crisis, then what is it? Well, the key to really understanding midlife is to see it as this fascinating intersection, a time when we're actually experiencing both growth and decline at the same time. The fancy term for this is multi-directionality, and it totally flips how we think about aging on its head. Instead of life being this one single mountain we climb to the top and then just head down, it's more like a really complex balancing act going on inside us. Some skills are getting sharper, while others might be getting a little softer. It's this dynamic trade-off happening constantly. And this slide, it just captures that paradox perfectly. Think of it as our hardware versus our software. On one side, some of our biological hardware, how fast we process things, certain kinds of memory, muscle mass, they're starting a slow, gradual decline. But, and this is a big but, at the exact same time, our emotional software, our happiness, our satisfaction with life, how deep our relationships are, is often heading straight up. So the crucial point here is that this intersection isn't a weakness. It's actually a strategic advantage. It's a sweet spot. It's that time when we've got all this wisdom from experience, but we still have the cognitive engine to actually use that wisdom. It's a period defined by a powerful, unique kind of balance, not a crisis. And this whole balancing act isn't just something happening inside our own heads. Midlife is also hugely defined by a shift in our role in the world, especially in how we connect to other people. This is the stage where a lot of us become this vital link in the human chain. The famous psychologist Erik Erikson, he called the central challenge of this time generativity. It's basically this fundamental shift away from focusing on me and towards we, this drive to nurture, to guide, and to contribute to the next generation. So researchers see this playing out in three key ways. First, there's managing that internal balance we just talked about. Second, it's about connecting our younger self with the person we're becoming. And third, and this is a big one, it's acting as that bridge between generations. And to really see that third role in action, let's look at a fantastic, real-world example, fatherhood. To really get a handle on this whole idea of generativity, a huge study took a deep dive into how fathers are actually involved in their kids' lives. It gives us this incredible blueprint for what that bridge-building role looks like on the ground. For the longest time, people just talked about fatherhood in these simple terms. A dad was either there or he wasn't. But this study wanted to get past that, to understand the different ways fathers are involved and, what kind of impact those different styles actually have. So, researchers looked at data from over 2,600 low-income fathers, and what they found was pretty amazing. The dad's involvement wasn't just random. It actually grouped together into four clear, distinct patterns. First up, and this is important, the largest group was this one, high positive involvement. These dads were basically all in. They were spending tons of time with their kids, they were affectionate, they played, they read, and they did it all with very little harsh discipline. Okay, the second pattern was more of a mixed bag. These fathers were also really engaged and warm, spending a lot of time with their children. But they combined all that good stuff with high levels of harsh discipline, like yelling a lot or spanking. Then you had the third group, which they called low cognitive stimulation. These dads were warm, they were present, they spent time with their kids, but they were way less likely to do those brain-building things like reading books, telling stories, or singing songs. And finally, the smallest group was just defined by being more detached in general. They were less involved across the board, less time, less play, less affection, and really less discipline of any kind, good or bad. This chart just lays it all out so clearly. You can see right away how high positive and engaged but harsh are similar on time and warmth, but they're total opposites when it comes to discipline. And you can see how that low cognitive group really stands out on that one specific crucial measure. Okay, so we've got these 4 different blueprints for parenting, but that brings us to the big question. So what? What's the actual impact of all this on the next generation? Well, the impact is huge, and you can actually measure it. Take a look at this. On average, kids whose dads were in that low cognitive stimulation group had noticeably lower verbal ability scores than the kids in the high positive involvement group. That is a real-world difference in a super important skill. And it wasn't just about words. That same pattern was also linked to more behavior problems and lower social skills. It's just powerful proof that it's not only about being there physically. The quality and the type of interaction, especially that cognitive stuff, is absolutely vital for a child's development. So here's the kicker that brings this whole thing together. Despite all the negative stereotypes about uninvolved fathers, especially in low-income communities, the single largest group in this massive study, almost half of all the dads, fell into the most positive category. The data just completely challenges the myth and tells a story of profound contribution. And that brings us right back to where we started. Whether it's through being a parent, or a mentor at work, or caring for aging parents, midlife is really defined by this central, pivotal role. It's not an ending. It's not a crisis. It's a vital connection point in the human story. And that is the real takeaway here. Midlife isn't some crisis we have to survive. It's a bridge we get to build. It's a bridge between our past and future selves, and most importantly, between the generations that came before us and the ones who will come after. The only question is, what kind of bridge will it be?